Before we get started, we just want to thank Old Republic Surety for sponsoring this episode of Let's Get Surety, as well as NASBP virtual seminars. For more information on Old Republic Surety, visit www.orsurety.com. Now on to our show.
You're listening to Let's Get Surety. Let me hear your bonding talk with Kat Shamapande.
Hey everyone, it's Kat Shamapande. Thanks so much for joining me for this episode of Let's Get Surety. I've got with me my co-host, Mark McCallum, CEO of NASBP. Hey Mark, thanks for being on.
Hi Kat, always, it's very enjoyable. And we've got a great topic today. So.
We do. We're going to be talking about our 515 Leadership Committee. And this is a topic that's near and dear to many of NASBP's members who've gotten the opportunity to either mentor 515 members or be a part of the 515. We're going to talk about all that with our guest today. We've got Mike Zahn. He's the sales executive with Moreton and Company. And he's also vice chair of NASBP's 515 Leadership Committee. Hey, Mike, thanks for being on.
Hey, Kat, a long-time listener, first-time caller, and it's thrilled to be here today. It's going to be exciting.
Well, it's good to have you on. Well, before we talk about the 515 Leadership Committee, Mike, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself and about Moreton and Company?
Yeah, absolutely. Moreton and Company is an independent brokerage based primarily out of Salt Lake City, Utah, also has offices in Boise, Idaho, and Denver, Colorado. It was incorporated in 1910, so almost 115 years in business, and a wonderful family-owned agency that, we have so many of these across the country, and it's proud to be a member. And
That's
my
awesome.
Background, I've been in surety, I hate to say coming up on 15 years. I started as an underwriter in mid-2011, and it's been the best career I never knew existed. So, kind of grew up in a family with a little bit of exposure to equipment, more on the logging side, actually. And that grew into a long and winding road, many of us know, that led us to this wonderful industry.
That's awesome. So that's kind of how you got into the surety space. Yeah. How'd you start to get involved with NASBP?
Sure. So I was with an agency after I stopped underwriting and made the jump over to the agency side that was an NASBP member. As that kind of started rolling a little further, a little faster, I was introduced to 515. And at the time was not attending annual meetings. So actually the first annual meeting on my first exposure to NASBP in person was down in Marco Island, Florida. And the first meeting, 515. And you walk into the room and you realize, wow, there's 25 people in this room that not only know what I do, which again, for those of us in the industry is pulling teeth to find people who understand what we do. But there's 25 peers in this room that I've grown to call many of them friends. You can talk through issues, challenges, really a sounding board that has been just incredibly valuable to me and my career. Where if I run up against something that, hey, I don't necessarily want to take this to an underwriter, or I don't want to take this to somebody, in my local area. Well, I've got contacts all over the country that have been in the same boat or are in the same position I am that can help me, really work through something or talk through an issue. And that's been a great advantage on top of everything else. So
that's neat. So really tremendous peer support. So I like numbers. So you got to tell me the significance of 515. What does that term mean?
Absolutely. So 515 is really the range of experience we're looking for committee members. So 5 to 15 refers to someone who's been in the surety industry for at least 5 years, but no more than 15 years. So we're looking for those professionals that, hey, I've been in the industry enough. I know how to spell surety. I know enough to be dangerous. But, how I think about it is everyone has that learning curve when you start in a new field or you start something new where, you really are learning so much so fast those first few years. And then it kind of starts to plateau a little bit. And what I've found is by being involved with 515, like I mentioned earlier, you have those peers where you're talking through things at a significantly higher level, and that learning curve just never really tapers off, which is, again, something that I've found in my career to be incredibly beneficial. So the other cool thing about it is, obviously you have people that are coming in, as candidates with, 4, 5, 6 years of experience, but you're paired with folks that are 12, 13, 14, 15 years in the industry.
Okay.
And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about mentorship later in our conversation, but that's something that right away jumped out to me. And, I was sitting next to Mark Dugan from Lockton in our first 515 meeting in Marco Island. I know nothing. And I know Mark from Zooms, and I meet him for the first time, and we're talking, and it just struck me that this is the first time I've really been in a room and had a conversation with somebody, again, does exactly what I do, but is more advanced in their career, and I can ask questions, and it's not going to impact anybody directly in front of me. And that was an aha moment that'll stick with me for a while.
Now, you talked about the 515 component,
Mm-hmm.
but there's another word in there, right, to the title. It's leadership.
Yes.
So
yes.
why is that important to this group?
So I think, leadership to us is, one of the things with the committee is you are required as a full member of the 515 committee to be involved in another committee within NASBP. So for me, that's government relations. There's folks that are on a wide array of all the other committees NASBP has to offer. So for us, it's kind of a dual threat where not only are we providing that, networking opportunity, but you're also allowing a pathway to leadership, first by committee involvement. But within that networking, what you're doing is you're building the future leaders of the organization. Nice. And I think that the program is mature enough now where we're really starting to see folks that have graduated out of 515 who are now, first, second, third vice presidents. They're starting to take over committee chair roles. And you're really starting to see that investment and that foresight, all those years ago when 515 was created, you're starting to see that really germinate, take hold, and now it's flowering. I mean, it's amazing how many people on that committee are now in positions within NASBP that are really contributing and shaping the organization.
Wow. And it sounds like, by building those leadership experiences and skills, you probably gain a lot of confidence, not just within the organization of NASBP, but even in your own organization, your own company, and in other activities you pursue. Would you find that to be true?
100%. 100%. And it's interesting because a lot of a lot of that value is, here's what we're doing, as a committee. Right. But again, so much of that value is also derived from the people that you meet from that committee. So we had a situation up here in the Pacific Northwest. We have a mega project here in Boise that, again, we won't share names, but a pretty big federal dollars behind it, and it's a big deal. And a lot of the subcontractors on that job were bonded. And we have an owner that has not really been through the surety process before. And as a cost saving measure at one point, they wanted to, hey, what's this line item for surety? We don't know what that is. Why are we paying this? Let's get those back. And what was interesting is, first of all, our local surety association, banded together, got NASBP involved and other groups involved, SFAA. And we were able to kind of make the first push back that, hey, these are needed. This is important. This provides not only protection for your GC, it provides protection for your subcontractors, so on and so forth. The really unique part was when we realized this company also has a project in another part of the country that is 12 to 18 months behind where our project here is, and it's substantially larger. So we're kind of thinking as a surety association, wow, we should really get in touch with that group and kind of give them a heads up as to our experience. Well, what wound up happening is Lauren, our chair right now on 515, covers that territory. And I gave Lauren a call and I said, hey, here's what we're seeing. Who do I need to be talking to? First of all, who's the head of your state surety association? Who are the underwriters that are plugged in here? And within 20 minutes, she had emails out to 5 or 6 people. Hey, this is Mike. I know him from 515. He's got this issue, And she made all the connections for us. And within a morning, we were on the phone with all of these other relevant parties that had no idea what we're going through on the other side of the country in projects that start with a B. And it's amazing, that connection that you don't really think about until, oh no, who do I call? And it was really cool to have that connection. And that I think is the most direct thing I've taken away from 515. But Mark, you bring up just from a confidence standpoint, from
Right.
hey, I'm getting up and I'm talking in front of a room of my peers. If I can talk in front of 25 of my peers and then I walk into a boardroom for one of my clients, that's okay. I can do that.
Right.
And it really is, like I said, I go back to the learning curve. It continues to go up, and anything to avoid that plateau is something that's always going to be important. But this is an opportunity where professionally, it's rocket fuel.
Mm. Well, and you mentioned that what happens when you're a full 515 leadership committee member. What's the stage before becoming a full 515 leadership committee member?
Sure. So you become a candidate. So what we're looking for right now is, folks that, and again, 5 is the hard cutoff. And I say hard cutoff with air quotation marks. We want people that have been in their role a few years who have decided, I really like this and I want to make this a career. And
it's not about age, right?
No,
so
it's not about age.
5 is really about industry-specific experience.
Industry experience.
Okay.
And what we're looking for is, the technical definition is 5 to 15 years of agency experience.
Okay.
For me, I think I was a little under the wire on agency experience, but I come in with some underwriting. We want people who understand how the surety world works from a technical standpoint, because this is it's not a technical program. This is more of a, hey, let's help you develop as a surety professional. And the candidate role is for 2 years. You come in and you are on all the calls. You are part of the committee meeting every year at National. You're invited to attend all of the 515 functions. So whether that is, the Rising Star Underwriter happy hours at the East and West meetings, whether that's, the president's reception at National, the fly-in, or any of the other items that are available to full members, from a candidate, you have access to those opportunities.
Wow.
For those 2 years, though, the idea is we want you to learn and observe what the 515 is about. And the other thing that goes into it is we also want you to explore committees. Because again, as we talked about earlier, it is a requirement that as a full 515 member, you sit on at least one other NASBP committee. So, take the time at National, go sit in on some other committee meetings, see what you're interested in. For me, it's government relations. I've been involved with, state surety associations as long as I can remember. And, the political aspect of our business has always been very interesting to me. There are folks that gravitate towards, technology and automation, which obviously with blockchain and, digital power seals, that kind of thing is super interesting. You have, commercial surety, you have membership, you have finance. There's something really for everybody that we want you to go out, explore, and understand exactly what you think you want to get into once you're past that 2-year candidate period.
It certainly makes sense. Clearly, you can't be a leader unless you're engaged. You're not really going to learn unless you're engaged. So this is kind of their 2-year period to show whether they're going to raise their engagement and merit entry into the 515. So I wanted to ask, so if I'm interested, I'm new in my career, but I've been in 5 years or 6 years or whatever, what is the process for me? What actually, do I fill out a nomination form?
Absolutely.
Do I go to my supervisor, my agency, and ask them to do it, or can either do that?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
In a word, Mark, yes. If you're on the NASBP website, and the revamp looks beautiful, by the way. If you're on the NASBP website, 515 does have a page there, which is linked to the application form. And essentially it's, we want to know about you. Hey, how did you hear about 515? Why do you think this is a good fit? Why do you think you're a good fit? And, kind of the standard application process. And then one of the things we ask for is that a principal or a leader in your agency also is involved in that application process. We find that it's, if there's leadership buy-in and they're understanding what we're trying to do, a lot of leadership really kind of perks up and hears, oh, this is interesting. This is going to value our producer network and everything else. And, it really is a value add for a lot of leadership folks as well. So we do want leadership involved in that application. You submit it in, and then, about this time of the year, we were talking a little earlier, we did send out to several new candidates this year. I saw those emails go out this morning. Hey, looking forward to meet you in Nashville in a couple weeks, and, welcome.
Nice. I mean, it sounds like, for that engagement, they really have to have a commitment to
Absolutely.
attending meetings, whether that's virtual
Mm-hmm.
And or in person, but there is going to be an in-person component. So I imagine the agency has to be committed to their participation. Was that true for you, Mike?
Absolutely. And I think that's a really important point is, again, our one in-person meeting a year that everybody's at is at National. It's very important that if you can, you're at that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I would say is within, the first year of me joining NASBP and joining, 515, first year I went to National. Second year I went to National and the West meeting. Third year I went to National, West meeting, and the mid-year board meetings. I would have made the fly-in this year if it wasn't for a prior commitment. But again, it's one of those things that it has a snowball effect that the more you get involved, the more you realize we're a legislated industry. And as any legislated industry, it can go away with the stroke of a pen. And what we want to be making sure we're doing is, hey, we're taking a lot out of this, but also that's, again, we talk about the leadership component, that we want to be good stewards of this industry. We want to make sure we are adding to what this industry is. And again, for a lot of people, myself included, one of the ways to do that is to take leadership roles within your peer group. This is the on-ramp to leadership within NASBP.
And you mentioned when you joined 515, you got to attend for the first time in person, the national meeting. Are there benefits through 515 for being able to attend meetings and make it more cost effective for your agency?
Well, that's funny you should mention that, Kit. That's quite the softball, and I love it. No, I think the other, as somebody who, hadn't been to one before, I think, going to your higher ups and saying, hey, I want to go to this meeting, what's the first question everybody asks? Well, what's it cost?
Yeah.
I think one of the really amazing benefits that NASBP offers is it's 50% off your meeting fees. So it's a substantial discount just for making the commitment to 515. And that's also something that, that first year when I went to my boss and said, hey, I think I should be here, he went, absolutely. And that's I think a big hurdle for a lot of people with tight budgets, and especially, for producers that are, 5 years in. We get it. You've probably validated by now, but you're watching your expenses like a hawk. And this is something that, I'm coming up on my 15, and I'm sitting here saying that was some of the best and smartest investment I've made in my career, was making sure that I'm involved.
And it sounds like there's so much going on at the annual, beyond the regular annual activities, with the extra 515 benefits that you get while you're there. You brought up the mentorship program. Can you speak a little bit more about that? Because that's another benefit of the 515 that I know that's available for full committee members. Is that right?
Full committee members. And it's one of those things that, again, I think it was rolled out a few years ago. And initially, I think the mentor pool was smaller. And under Manny Hatta-George, a prior chair of 515, he wanted to revamp the program. And Manny did a great job because, it really opened up the mentor pool. And what it offers is, if you're a full member of 515 and you want to enter the mentorship program, you fill out another questionnaire. We love our questionnaires. Hey, it asks a lot of very specific questions. Everything from, hey, my name is, I'm a producer at this agency in this part of the country, to my book is made up of these types of contractors. I have an interest in commercial surety. I want to do oil and gas, in very specific areas. And they make an effort to pair you with either an NASBP past president, a 515 graduate, I think a committee chair. There are a few, but basically leaders and active folks within the organization. And they'll match you up based on your career goals. And it's very interesting because, again, it gives you yet another opportunity to be plugged in with a professional who is I'm not going to say years ahead because I don't want to date people, but it was somebody who is further down their career trajectory than you are.
Well seasoned, perhaps.
Well seasoned. That's a great way to put it. And, again, they have the knowledge. I like to say, when I started my career, I didn't just stub my toe on every mistake possible. I soccer kicked it. Well, you can save somebody from stubbing a toe or soccer kicking, a mistake because, hey, they're talking to somebody who's been there and done it. The program's already a success. So, it's great. And it's one of those things where you have an intro call with your mentor and you have, again, you go to a mid-year, you go to a mid-year board meeting, or you go to an East-West meeting, and you have one more person in that group that all of a sudden, hey, not only do I know them, I know their story, they know my story, and hey, here's an underwriter I think you should meet, or hey, have you met so-and-so? And it really becomes, an extension of your network that is, again, what NASBP is all about.
Right. Nice. You kind of touched on this earlier, but I thought maybe it'd be worth maybe going into it a little bit more.
Sure.
So obviously you're building an incredible network. You have not only a network of peers, but mentors and other seasoned individuals in the industry. But tell us a little bit more about like access to actually surety company leaders, surety industry leaders,
absolutely.
which I think is kind of unprecedented for somebody at that level of their career, right?
Well, and it's funny because Kat, I thought that's where you're going when you're talking about, lovely Marco Island as my first national. And I think that's what struck me right away was, you walk through the hotel lobby and you have 4 or 5 heads of surety companies there. And it's not just the heads of surety companies. It is their chief underwriting officers, their home office folks, their AVPs, their territory underwriters. I mean, you have the whole chain in one place.
Wow.
And if you have, questions, obviously you get to network with them, you get to meet them. And then if you have an issue down the road, but some of the most amazing experiences I've had where, hey, I'm at NASBP, I get an email, I have a problem with a client or a prospect, and you see somebody in the hallway and you go, hey, you got 10 minutes. Yeah, sure. Let me grab my CUO. And immediately you're, in a coffee shop walking through this issue in one place. And this is one of the other benefits of 515 that I really didn't expect are those lovely colored ribbons that we love so much. And 515 does get a special ribbon. And what was amazing to me is how the company folks at those meetings, when they see that ribbon or they see that little sticker and they realize, oh, this is a 515 member, they go out of their way to find you, to introduce themselves to you. If you work with their company, hey, how are we doing? Hey, can we be doing better? Who are you working with? Anything we can help you with? And it really is amazing the doors that has opened for me. I had an issue a few years ago where, due to 515 and due to some networking I had done, we had a client with a massive collateral problem. We inherited via BOR and we're trying to unwind it for them. And within two hours of having a call with that client, trying to piece it together, I'm getting emails from the commercial head of this surety, and it's not a small surety, and the underwriting manager for our region saying, hey, when can we get a Zoom call together? And we had a Zoom call together the next morning to walk through this client issue. That's access you can't get that anywhere else. So instead of working through 7 or 8 underwriting links in the chain to get to the top and then have it cascade all the way back down, hey, I met this guy at NASBP. I happen to have his business card. Hey, remember me? Apologies to interrupt, but we just inherited this. I know this is going to land on your desk anyways. I'd love to talk with you about it. There it is. So again, it's networking can be very nebulous and it's fun to do. I mean, we wouldn't be in this business if networking wasn't fun, but there's a lot of very tangible benefit that, at least personally, I've derived from 515. And I know, again, because of that peer network, a lot of other people do as well.
And don't you periodically receive presentations from different sureties and essentially their senior staff, just to give the 515 a flavor of that company?
Absolutely. So we do every year, NASBP, the 515 committee does a breakfast where we invite in a surety company. And by the way, those invitations to those surety companies are extended based on vote of the 515 membership.
Oh, okay.
So we get a survey, and Bethany, I have to give Bethany a shout out because she does, like everything else, she does amazing work with this committee and making sure.
And Bethany Jones is the Jones. Liaison.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
She does amazing work with this committee, and we have the list where we get to choose from. Hey, these are the carriers we want to hear from, and the ones that get the highest number of votes are the ones that are invited to come. They speak at the 515 breakfast. So you're in a small room, and again, the heads of the surety, and they usually bring 5, 6, 7 senior leaders, and you have an hour and a half to sit, have a meal, listen to the presentation, ask questions, and then again during the Monday evening receptions, there's also 2 where there are 515 specific receptions where we get to go before everybody else gets there and have time to network specifically with those surety leaders. So it is, again, the access is amazing, and it all happens at National, which is, I'm excited. I've never actually been to Nashville before, so this will be fun.
Good town,
it's a great town here.
Looking forward to Nashville at the end of April this year. But beyond just going to the annual meeting too, you guys also do an annual home office visit. Is that right?
Yes. We do. And the interesting part is the last few years we've done that in conjunction with the fly-in, which has been great. So again, it increases from NASBP's perspective. We get a lot of 515 members at the fly-in. And, again, for SFAA, which is with a joint fly-in, their leadership is there as well. So it does make it logistically easier. And then, I do have to say one of my first NASBP experiences was during COVID. And we had the e-fly-ins. So we had
the virtual fly-ins, right?
Which was a very unique thing, and we had a virtual home office visit. So it was kind of funny because the early days of COVID in 2020, and the doorbell rings, and my wife goes, "Were you expecting a FedEx package?" I go, "No." She goes, "You have a refrigerated FedEx package on the front door." That's interesting. Open it up, and the surety that was doing the home office presentation had sent out ice cream from the town that they were in. So they did an ice cream tasting as part of their home office tour.
Oh, that's awesome.
I thought it was a super cool way to make that work and kind of roll with the punches. But, like I said, it's a lot of those unique experiences within the industry that I can promise you when I see those execs in a couple of weeks, I go, "What? No ice cream this year?"
So maybe
we'll have a good laugh out of it.
So maybe it's not all serious discussion.
Not at all.
When you're you do have fun during these events.
We do tend to have a good time. It is. No, it's a great experience. It's a great group of people, and I kind of look at it that this far along in my career, I want to be around people that are motivated, that are on the same plane, and it's kind of that. And I don't know who said it, but it's one of those things that sticks with you. If you're the smartest person in the room, find a new room. and 515 is that room. And I love it because it is a group of people that all are there for the same reason. And when you're in one of those rooms where everybody's motivated, everybody's doing the same thing you are and trying to build, their brand, their book of business, their career, and everybody's pulling in the same direction, that's where the magic happens. And what's really cool is now, when I started on 515 versus where I am now, and now I'm getting to be one of the gray hairs in the room where, hey, people are coming to you and asking questions, which is interesting. And there's some folks who are joining committee that, hey, I recruited. And it's kind of, I joked last year when we had the 515, chair election, and there was a line that I don't know where it came from. I just said, I kind of feel like a surety evangelist at this point. Where I love this career that I've fallen into, and it's the best thing ever happened to me professionally, that I've discovered what surety bonding is. And, I want to share that with other people. And I think it's such a unique place. And within that unique industry, 515 is one of those gems that for people who are established that, hey, I've made the same discovery. I've realized that this magical thing called surety is what I want to do for my career. I know how to spell bond, and I know the basic mechanical pieces. This is the next step. And, getting involved, being politically active, whatever that means for you, being involved in, hey, again, commercial, finance, membership, whatever floats your boat. This is a way to really get involved and make sure that industry is set up for, continued success and growing this wonderful industry that we've all discovered.
Well, Mike, do you have any advice for someone who's listening and might be on the fence still, even after hearing all this evangelism about whether or not they should try and get nominated and fill out the application for the 515? What would you say to them now?
What I can tell them is, if you're listening to this podcast, you're already deep enough in. Just sign.
Good point.
You're already curious enough. You've listened thus far. What are we, 40 minutes in? You've listened to this conversation. Yeah, it's time for you to sign that paperwork and come see what it's about in person. But, to those, if you truly are on the fence, you've already discovered it's an amazing industry. You've already discovered, the benefits personally, professionally. This is one of those things that I don't think anybody in that room has any regret about doing or spending their time on. And that's the highest compliment I can give, is that this is something that every minute I put into this, I get so much more out of. And now it's trying to put enough in that you're sharing the wealth, so to speak. So if you're on the fence, just do it. I don't know if our contact information is saved or if there's a roster. I know there's a contact link on the NASBP website. Click it and somebody will be in touch with you. And if you have specific questions, we'll get them taken care of.
Yeah, and we'll make sure we put the link for both the annual meeting and for the 515 Leadership Committee in the description for this podcast, so that if you want to get more information or go ahead and get your application nomination process started, you can do that now.
Fantastic.
Well, thanks for being on with us today, Mike. It was a lot of fun chatting with you today, and I can't wait to see you in Nashville, and we'll hopefully get you back on another episode sometime soon.
Fantastic. No, I appreciate it. And Kat and Mark, thank you. I can check being on a podcast off my bucket list. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. And yeah, looking forward to Nashville.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.
You've been listening to Let's Get Surety, brought to you by the National Association of Surety Bond Producers. For more information about the NASBP and its members, visit nasbp.org.
Before we go, we just want to say thank you again to Old Republic Surety for their generous support in sponsoring this episode of Let's Get Surety. For more information on Old Republic Surety, visit www.orsurety.com.